He's a first-time congressman, been a friend of ours for a long time. He's from the great state of Arizona, and he's fighting for Arizonans. He's fighting for the United States, as he did in the military as well. It, of course, is Representative Abe Hamadeh, District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona. Abe, how are you? Good to see you again.
All is doing great. Good to be with you, Joe.
It's an absolute pleasure. I got to jump right into how does it feel to be in Washington? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Is it swampy? Just give us an overview, if you don't mind, of your time there so far.
Be honest, Joe, I love it. And I love it because I know I'm fighting for the American people with President Trump. He needs backup here in Washington, D.C. to take on the deep state. So having all these allies, and I'll tell you what, in Congress, President Trump right now is beloved by everybody. I mean, just a few years ago, this was not the case. So it really is a testament of the man's character and what he had to endure, his resilience. And I think it's really motivated so many other members of Congress to really buck up and realize that our country was under attack over the past few years with the Democrats in power. But now with Republicans in the House and Senate and with President Trump in the White House leading the way, we are there to put the American people first. So we're getting a lot of big wins. I know we got the reconciliation this week. So I'll be honest, Joe, I'm having a good time because you could sense, we have visitors here from my constituents. They come to
Right.
Washington, D.C. They're so excited to be a part of this government where we're returning power back to we the people.
It is Abe Hamadeh, District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona. I've got to ask you about the news of the day. The big news that broke over the weekend was that former President Biden has cancer, prostate cancer. It's already in his bones. They're calling it level 5 or stage 5, which is interesting to me. Abe, by every doctor that I've seen, left and right, Democrat, Republican, they've all said they had to have known about this. This thing doesn't just happen over the weekend. Is there anything interesting about the timing? I mean, obviously, we don't want him to die. We want him to get better. We want him to get great services, medical care, all that. I'm not hoping anything bad happens to him, but the timing is suspect, isn't it?
It sure is, Joe. And I always say that this life is temporary, but our souls are eternal, and what we do here on this earth matters. So, whatever Joe Biden has to go through after he passes through this one, but I obviously wish him the best health. However, as a president, you do receive blood work routinely. You have to go through the medical process. They always go to Walter Reed to get the checkup. So,
Right.
from when I've been talking to doctors, they've been saying it's highly unusual that they wouldn't have caught this through their annual blood exam. So, I don't know if it was a cover up. I don't know what was happening or whether it was a family issue they didn't want to expose to the people. I mean, they covered up his declining mental health for so long as well.
Right.
So it doesn't surprise me that his physical health was also being covered up.
Well, some have suggested, David Axelrod directly has suggested, now you've got to mute all of those criticisms of the Biden 4 years. I don't think so. Again, you and I both want him to get well. We don't want him to have cancer. If they can cure it tomorrow, I'd be happy to see that because I wanted to stand trial on charges of being the head of a crime family. He was a RICO guy. So, again, I mean, the timing is so suspect. You have the Jake Tapper book coming out where he finally tells the truth about the cognitive decline. We've got the Robert Hur tapes that are out now where we find out he doesn't remember what year it is, when he was the vice president, when his son died. So, again, and I don't want you to speculate because I'm leading you there, but do you think there's anything to the timing of it in that all these things are happening, exposing the last 4 years for what they were, and now we should all be quiet because he has cancer?
Joe, you're an expert at understanding when a psyop is occurring, and I think that's what's happening here. The timing is everything on all of this. If you look at the bad press, you're right, the Jay Tapper book, it all coincides. That's what leads me to believe that they announced it publicly at this time. But based off of his diagnosis, it probably was revealed to him prior to this. But I'm assuming, I'm just speculating at this point. But
Right.
based off my conversations, I mean, you won't be at that stage of cancer and not know it, especially if you get routine exams. And he was the president of the United States receiving an annual exam, but I'm sure at his age as well, he was receiving blood work
Right.
often. So very suspicious. But honestly, you're right. I mean, these people, the Democrats, they almost assassinated President Trump live on TV. They tried to imprison him if he didn't win in November.
Right.
They were going to imprison him and let him rot in jail. That's the mentality that they were in. I mean, they were truly in a psychosis and their Trump derangement syndrome. So we always have to be aware of what the left wing media and what the leftists are trying to do. They're trying to destroy our country. And at least people like you and I are aware of their motives.
It is District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona, Abe Hamadeh. We appreciate the time, Abe. Let's talk about the big, beautiful bill. Chip Roy is my representative here in Texas. I like Chip. He is a fiscal conservative. He's a guy that doesn't want spending. He's one of the few that is saying no to the bill the way that it was first presented. I get it. I guess the argument is there should be some sort of a work requirement to get Medicaid. I like that. Medicaid is not Medicare, where we all pay into it. Medicaid is something you get as an entitlement, and I think that you should probably go to work. But also the problem was that the decreased spending doesn't start till like 28 or 29 or something. And that seems to be putting it off for no reason. Where are we on the big, beautiful bill? Are we close? Is it going to get out of committee, and is it going to be voted on this Friday or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, it passed the budget committee last night at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
They were hard at work on Sunday at 10 p.m. So it did pass. Now it has to go through the rules committee. The rules committee is slated to take it on at 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning, believe it or not, 1 a.m. President Trump, it's just been announced that he's going to be coming to Congress tomorrow morning to speak to the Republican
Oh, wow.
conference. So President Trump's going to be whipping up the votes, and he's the best whip that we have. And honestly, how I see my role is President Trump knows what he's doing, Joe.
Yeah.
When people criticize the tariff plan and then yet, they're caught flat footed because President Trump was right when you have all these countries coming to negotiate. President Trump has a strategy. He needs backup. He needs a support in Congress. Yes, that there's been plenty of deficits and the national debt is out of control. But we have to understand that I wasn't here for that increase.
Right. You didn't
Well,
do
right
it.
now,
Yeah.
do the best what we can given the situation that we've been given. And that's what President Trump understands. We're practical. We're going to tackle on a lot of this mess, but it's going to take time. It took us decades to get us into this mess. It's going to take us a while to get us out of it. But this is a good step forward. The Medicaid, you're exactly right. It is welfare. And Medicaid right now, the reconciliation bill, it's going to have work requirements for
Good.
those single males who are in the working population age. But you see what the Democrats tried doing. They tried gaslighting the people. A lot of people confuse Medicaid with Medicare. They really ought to change the name of Medicaid to something else, just like
I
how
agree.
food stamps is different. So they have to differentiate it because my district, for instance, we have the highest number of senior citizens in Arizona that I represent, and yet we know the Democrats are trying to act like that we're trying to touch Medicare, which we're not. President Trump promised to not touch Medicare, and we have to understand that with this reconciliation, this big beautiful bill, we're actually giving a tax credit to seniors because although that right now in this bill we're not doing no tax on Social Security because
Right.
statutorily it's not allowed actually, but the workaround was to give them a tax credit. Hopefully, in the future, I've co-sponsored a bill with Congressman Massey to eliminate tax on Social Security. Hopefully, that can be brought to the floor in the future. But right now, that's what we're going to be doing as a credit. So our seniors are going to be protected. The American people are going to get a big tax cut. It's going to work, and we just need to support President Trump and this America First agenda. Keep the ball moving forward.
Yeah, Abe, it's one of the biggest questions I got. I go live many nights over on TikTok. I have about 1 million followers on TikTok, and the question they have is, are we going to get no tax on tips and no tax on overtime? The answer is yes, as I read this bill. But I like that you brought up Social Security. You cannot do it. I think you would have to do it with a supermajority. It has to be a standalone thing if you wanted to do no tax on Social Security.
Right.
So giving people, individuals making $75,000 or less who are on Social Security, or couples making $150,000 or less on Social Security are going to get like a $4,000 tax credit. That's a lot of money. That's pretty good. So it's not no tax on Social Security, but it is what you're able to do in reconciliation where you only need 51, right?
That's exactly right, Joe. So it's in effect the same, has the same outcome, just through a different maneuver. So I give a lot of credit to Chairman Jason Smith on the House Ways and Means Committee for being creative on that. And hopefully going forward in the future, we're eventually going to eliminate tax on Social Security because these people are already paying taxes into Social Security, and yet they're getting taxed on the back end as
Makes
well.
no sense.
So but reconciliation, this big beautiful bill, we have to understand it's gonna some people, some of the softer Republicans are opposed to it because of the SALT tax credits, but there's others of the Medicaid. So it's a balancing act. And Speaker Johnson actually has a tough job, but he's been doing a great job working with President Trump to whip up the votes. And when not everybody's happy, that usually means that's a pretty good bill. And I think that's what Republicans have to understand, that when this is going to the floor on Thursday, we all have to support it because President Trump needs this victory. If not, we know how the liberal media is going to react to it. And we just have to make sure that we're producing a good piece of legislation to send to the Senate, because the Senate, believe me, they won't have the same type of reforms like that we have on the House. We're a lot more aggressive because we're the House that's closest to the people. The Senate has a lot of different interest groups going to them all the time.
Any Democrats going to vote for it?
We will see. I know sometimes it surprises me when Democrats vote for some of the Republican bills, but I'll tell you what, the Democrats, something I love about them is that they have a hive mentality, Joe. I mean,
Yeah,
that Hakeem Jeffries, he's got them whipped into shape. I don't think a single person's gonna vote for it because how the Democrats operate.
good.
They never dissent. Republicans too often, everybody wants to be the leader. Yet here we have the most transformative leader of our country's history, President Trump. How about we follow his lead? He got us elected, and in many cases, he actually got the House majority because if you look at
Yes.
the numbers, he outperformed and carried so many people across the finish line. Get his agenda passed, and that's what I intend to do when it comes to the floor vote this week.
I hope no Democrats vote for it because then we can use that in the midterms. That they didn't want to give you a tax cut. They didn't want to give you guys a break. They didn't want to make Americans, have a little bit of breathing room. It is Abe Hamadeh, District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona. Abe, can you tell me, because I'm kind of a dumb guy, who the hell thought ranked choice voting made any sense where you have to go? I can't go and vote for Abe Hamadeh. Got to vote for Abe Hamadeh and Bob Smith and Mary Jones. And then whoever the top vote getter might compete against the second vote getter, but my favorite might not have made the cut. What the? Abe, why did they do this? How did they get away with it?
Everything you explained is the exact reason why they did it, Joe, because they want to confuse the people. And that's why President Trump put out a Truth Social post just last month talking about banning ranked choice voting. I introduced legislation here in Congress to ban ranked choice voting at the federal level because in some states like Alaska and Maine, they have ranked choice voting. And
Yeah,
some other states have it at the local levels. And if they want to keep it there and have it affect them, that's fine. But here at the federal level, no federal office holder should be elected through ranked choice voting because we know it confuses the voters. Oftentimes, it's not the will of the people. And what happens is it makes auditing elections impossible, Joe. And that's what's so key. Banning ranked choice voting is for election integrity. And every single state that proposed ranked choice voting last November, it was, I believe, 7 states that introduced it, trying to make it the official voting system in their states, and including Arizona, and they all voted against it. So it
good.
shows you the people are wide awake for it. The only exception was Alaska, and I think it survived by 700 votes. But I know that they're trying to ban ranked choice voting there this in 2026, and I hope it's going to get passed. Again, it was just a confusing message, and having President Trump opposing ranked choice voting is powerful. So we're going to get the message out there. But every single time the Democrats take power, they actually try to introduce legislation to allow to force federal elections to have ranked choice voting, believe it or not, Joe. So the Democrats are doing it that way. And here I am as a Republican doing the opposite. So we're going to ban it. And hopefully it gets momentum here. And I know it already has. So we got to have strong election integrity because I know it better than
Yeah.
most that if we have stolen elections, it has consequences all across our country.
Fact is, it would be Senator Kelly Chewbacca right now from Alaska had there not been ranked choice voting. Lisa Murkowski keeps on winning with it. I don't even think she gets the majority. Somehow she keeps on winning, and she's a very, very moderate, very weak left-leaning Republican. It's Abe Hamadeh, District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona. He's not weak at all. President Trump goes to the Middle East, and the Middle East shows more respect and more reverence to an American president than I think I've seen since Reagan. I mean, it was unbelievable how they treated him. Why was that, do you think? Is it out of real respect? Is it out of fear? Is it because they know that he's strong? Why did we see such an outpouring of goodness toward the United States last week?
It's a lot of love too, Joe. And I believe it's because President Trump communicates. He picks up the phone. He always calls these foreign leaders, and he respects them, and they respect him back. So having them have a fighter jet escort into their capitals was so historic. And if you look at his first foreign country he visited in his first term was Saudi Arabia, and he went back there again, and he shows the amount of foreign investments that have come in, flocked into the United States. Look at Saudi Arabia has committed $600 billion to the United
Amazing.
States over 10 years. Also huge arms packages as well. Qatar has committed 1.2 trillion. The Emiratis have committed 500 billion. I mean, the amount of money that's being poured into our country because they understand that President Trump and this leadership, they all want to be a part of history. And President Trump welcomes them all into the fold. So it really is a matter of respect. If you remember, President Trump, he's the one who classified the Houthis as a foreign terrorist organization. And
Right.
then Joe Biden declassified them as a terrorist organization. They kept firing missiles. And yet they got a peace deal with them, or at least a cessation of some of the firings that have been happening on our ships. So President Trump's a peacemaker. He got rid of Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander. So President Trump understands when to use force, but he also knows when to offer an olive branch, and that's what these countries understand. And I think it's only going to get better Joe, because of the tariff policies. That's why these countries are coming in begging to make a deal, because all President Trump did with these tariffs, by the way, is just reciprocate the tariffs, and he even reciprocated them at a lower level in these other countries. So they respect toughness. They respect him as a person because they understand that he's putting the people first. And too often, what's happened in Washington D.C., they've been putting special interests ahead of the American people, and that changed on the day that President Trump got sworn in on January 20th.
Well, there was chaos in the Middle East for 4 years, and we didn't even know which side the United States government was on when it came to the Hamas and Israel. Now it appears as though the almighty dollar might help to direct some peace in that area. Might we get peace because A, they know that he's strong, but B, commerce plays a really big role in this. If everybody's fat and happy, making some money, making some profit, and doing well for their people, you might have more peace, right?
That's exactly right. And that's why President Trump also lifted the sanctions on Syria, right? I mean, Bashar al Assad was a dictator who was close to the Iranians, and they got rid of him in December. And yet, there's this new government that came in who have a checkered past. Well, how I look at it is I say, even Vietnam, right? The communist Vietnamese, they actually won that war in many ways, and yet we still do trade with them. So what President
Right.
Trump did by lifting the sanctions, saying, hey, we're going to give them a shot, but he also put conditions. He said that we want to see them join the Abraham Accords. The Abraham Accords, which President Trump did in his first term, was so historic, and we're going to have an expansion of that, hopefully, not just with hopefully Syria, but Azerbaijan has signaled that they want to join the Abraham Accords. So you're exactly right, Joe, that through prosperity comes peace. And if you look at what President Trump did even before he landed in Saudi Arabia, releasing the hostage, the last American hostage
Yes.
in Israel, in Gaza, was very powerful. I know he was a dual citizen, and it was a beautiful moment to see him embrace his family after almost 2 years suffering under Hamas's rule and torture. So there's still hostages left, and we're going to do everything in our power to release them, because we understand that Hamas has destroyed Gaza, and October 7 could never happen again. And President Trump understands that. That's why he's been cracking down on these university protests that have turned into insanity. And that's why he's actually withholding federal tax dollars going to these universities. They're supposed to be the beacon of learning, and we know that they're actually the beacon of turning them into communist activists. So
Yeah.
President Trump, he's fair, he's also tough, and he knows how to negotiate a deal.
U.S. Representative Abe Hamadeh, District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona. Maybe 20 or 30 seconds on this, Abe. Are we going to stop getting baby formula from China? I mean, I don't trust China. I don't want my pharmaceuticals from there. I don't want the baby formula from there. I know that President Trump is trying to crack down on it. Why can't we just make it here?
Joe and I actually commented about that. The amount of data that we have to send to the communist Chinese if you're operating in China, whether using their pharmaceuticals or their formulas, it's astonishing. So it's sadly the price of business you deal with dealing with the communist Chinese. But hopefully now with RFK Jr. leading the HHS, we're going to have a big crackdown on the communist Chinese, because we know that they've been stealing our data. They've been using it to try to genetically modify so many of these viruses. So we have to start getting tough.
Abe Hamadeh, District 8 Republican, great state of Arizona. Abe, next time I'm in D.C., we've got to shake hands, okay?
Absolutely. Stop by my office, Joe. You're welcome anytime.
I'll make sure I do. Thank you for what you're doing for Arizona and for the country, and we're back after this. Stay right here.